Enzorecto, kalaban ang katiwalian at kasinungalingan, kakampi sa katotohanan at kabutihan.
Iwas pusoy ngayon itong si Roy na Garma sa pag-apply niya ng asylum doon sa Amerika. Dahil po mga kabunyog umiiwas ngayon itong si Garma sa mga pananagutan niya dito sa Pilipinas. Na kung saan na-involve itong si Garma sa madugong war on drugs ni Digong. At siya ang hinihinalang mastermind sa pagpatay kay PCO board member na si Wesley Barayuga. Dito po umalma si Congressman Johnny Pimentel. Sabi niya hindi dapat bigyan ito ng asylum dahil hindi naman ito pini-prosecute. At saka raw mayroon pa itong mga kasong dapat harapin. Anyway, para po sa iba pang mga detalye ng balitang ito, panoorin po natin ito.
Former Philippine Charity Sweepstakes Office General Manager Colonel Royina Garma is seeking asylum in the United States, according to her lawyer. In an interview on Monday, April 14, Garma's lawyer, attorney Emerito Kilang, says Garma immediately applied for asylum in the U.S. the same month she was arrested. Garma was arrested and detained in San Francisco, California in November last year. According to Kilang, the hearing on Garma's request for asylum was on April 2, but it was cancelled.
I'm not privy to the things happening there in the asylum. What I know is the asylum was set for the initial hearing on April 2, but it was cancelled and there is no setting yet.
Individual with a well-founded fear of persecution in his or her home country. Kilang attended on Monday the preliminary investigation before the Department of Justice for the murder and frustrated murder cases filed by the National Bureau of Investigation against his client for the death of PCSO Board Secretary Wesley Barayuga. According to Kilang, the deadline for the filing of counter-affidavit is set on May 2.
Actually, we are ready with the counter-affidavit today, but we like to avail of that last day, which is May 2. And we will all be putting there already our defenses. Of course, our defenses there is that she does not have any participation.
Investigating Garma for her alleged involvement in Barayuga's murder. Barayuga was gunned down by a motorcycle-riding man shortly while on his way home from the PCSO Central Office in Mandaluyong City on July 30, 2020.
All right, we have a witness in the Quadcom hearings, a vital witness, a vital source against former President Duterte, now seeking asylum in the United States. What would be the challenges for her to be getting that request?
Well, first and foremost, from what I know, asylum is being granted to persons who are politically persecuted in their country. And in this case, I don't think that this would apply to Royina Garma. She has not been politically persecuted here, but rather she's been investigated in her participation in the extrajudicial killings during the past administration. And more than that, she is also being investigated because of her participation or her involvement in the killing of General Wesley Barayuga, who was the PCSO board director during her time when she was, I think, the chairman of PCSO. We had testimonies from those involved, most specifically Colonel Santi Mendoza, who divulged information that she was contacted by Colonel Royina Garma to get in touch with a certain Nelson Mariano. In this certain Nelson Mariano was the one who hired the gunman to kill Wesley Barayuga. So in short, these two persons, or Colonel Santi Mendoza, was pointing to Colonel Royina Garma as the mastermind. So dalawa po itong inimbestigahan natin sa kanya. Her participation in extrajudicial killing, and more gruesome is the murder of Wesley Barayuga. I don't think that that would apply in her application to be granted an asylum. Because as we all know, application for an asylum is very tedious. there are requirements, criteria for granting an asylum. And as I've said, I don't believe that this would apply to Colonel Garma, considering that she was not politically persecuted here. She's involved in heinous crimes.
Now, Representative, to clarify, Garma is still being investigated in Congress, which is in aid of legislation. No criminal charges have been filed against her yet, or meron na?
I don't know what's the update, no? Pero after the hearing in Quadcom, I understand that General Marbil took it out upon himself to make a reinvestigation of the case because of the new witnesses that came up during the hearing. So hindi ko na talaga alam kung ano na nangyari, if there were charges filed. Maybe we can ask PNP regarding that.
Okay, what would make Garma's situation from hypothetically, former Iloilo Mayor Jed Mabilog? Jed Mabilog was granted asylum in the United States, and that was quite quick. And if you remember, during Duterte's time, Mabilog was included in the narco list. Nasa drug watch list siya ng Pangulong Duterte. So the former president could have argued he is not politically persecuted. He's being accused, investigated as part of my drug war. Pero the US granted him asylum.
The situation of Jed Mabilog is totally different from the situation of Colonel Garma. Jed Mabilog was accused that he is a drug lord, but there were no evidences that were presented. In fact, the regional police office in his region cleared him of his involvement in drugs. In this case of Garma, we have witnesses pointing to her as a mastermind. Meron po tayong testigo, and in any crime, the witness is very important. So, these are two different situations. So, well, it's up to the host country actually to verify, to analyze, or evaluate whether she is qualified. As a citizen of the Philippines, it's a prerogative, but granting or approval of the asylum is another thing. So I believe that the United States will thoroughly investigate her situation, and if they find out that she is not politically persecuted and rather she is involved in a murder case, I believe that they will have second thoughts on granting her asylum.
Ang tanong ko, Representative Pimentel, can Congress act on her asylum request? Will the Quadcom be writing a letter, for example, to the US government, pointing out why she shouldn't be given asylum?
Well, we can do that, but as in any committee, it should be decided by the majority. So we will throw this to the committee members whether it is proper for the committee to write an objection letter to her asylum application. Kailan po pagbotohan mo namin yan, and then we will draft a letter.
Bunyog, bunyog, halikan na kasama ka. Bunyog, kapag buklod ay may pag-asa. Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, isa ang pananaw. Sa bagong Pilipinas ang bunyog isisigaw.